I inherited the motel from an uncle I barely knew. His name was Leonard Mayfield, and according to the lawyer who handled the estate, he had owned Mayfield Inn for over 30 years. I had no memory of ever meeting the man, and as far as I knew, my family didn't keep in touch with him. He died alone, and now the motel was mine. I had planned to sell it. A quick trip to check the place out, sign some papers, and unload it onto the next unlucky bastard. That was the plan. But standing in front of the rotting neon-lit skeleton of the Mayfield Inn, I realized I'd severely underestimated just how far gone it was. The no vacancy sign flickered uselessly in the dusty evening light, even though the parking lot was empty. A single-story structure stretched out in both directions, a row of faded blue doors with numbers that had long since peeled away. The whole place smelled like stale air and old wood, and there was an odd, dead silence. No birds, no wind, just stillness. I took a deep breath and walked inside. The front desk was just as abandoned as the rest of the place. Dust-coated brochures curled at the edges, a landing phone sat off the hook, and a guest book lay open on the counter. And that's when I saw it. My name, checked in. The date was blank. I was shocked flipping through the pages. The last real guest had been years ago. A few scrawled signatures, nothing recent. But here it was, my name, written in shaky black ink, as if someone had known I'd be here. I rubbed the back of my neck, feeling a creeping unease. Maybe the lawyer had written it down for the paperwork, but that didn't make any sense. It looked old. I closed the book and shook it off. I had to get this over with. I did a quick walkthrough of the motel. Most of the rooms were identical. Worn-out beds, old tube TVs, wallpaper peeling at the edges. I'd expected graffiti, broken windows, maybe some squatters, but the place was weirdly intact. And then I saw the Do Not Disturb signs. Room 106, Room 108, Room 112. Faded red signs hung through the handles, swaying slightly, even though there was no breeze. I pulled one off and inspected the back of it. Don't open the door. My stomach twisted. Someone had written that by hand. I tried the handle. Locked. Okay, creepy. Maybe an old prank? Maybe my uncle left them there before they died? It was weird, but not my problem. I walked back toward the lobby, but as I passed the front desk, the guest book was open again, and my name was written twice. That night, I sat in the front office, going through old paperwork by flashlight. No power, no running water. I'd have to call the county, get a property assessment, sell this place for whatever I could get. Then, I noticed something I knew wasn't there before. On the counter, next to the guest book, sat a plate of steaming hot food. My breath caught in my throat. Eggs, toast, hash browns, a diner-style breakfast, fresh, the steam still curling up into the dim light. I turned around so fast my chair scraped the floor. Nobody was there. The door was still shut and locked. The night was silent. I stared at the plate, my pulse pounding in my ears. There was no way someone had snuck in. I was alone. I grabbed my keys, ready to get the fuck out of there, but they were gone. The spot where I had set them down was empty. And then, from down the hallway, I heard a door unlock. A soft creak, like someone was slowly pushing it open. I turned toward the sound, heart hammering. Room 106. One of the rooms that had a Do Not Disturb sign. The door was open just a crack. Enough to see inside, but not enough to see who had opened it. The hallway stretched out before me, dark and silent. The kind of silence that felt unnatural. No wind, no distant hum of a highway, just the faint smell of stale air and something sour. I stood frozen, my mind racing. Someone was here. Someone had taken my keys. Someone had left a plate of food on the counter. And now, that same someone had just unlocked this door. I stepped forward, my pulse pounding in my throat. Don't open it. That warning scrawled on the back of the Do Not Disturb sign flashed through my head. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the doorframe. And then, a shadow moved inside the room. I stepped back fast, my breath catching. Not an animal, not a trick of the light. Someone was in there. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my keys were gone. My car was useless without them. I needed to figure out what the hell was going on. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. Then, I pushed the door open. The room was empty, at least at first glance. The bed was untouched, still made with stiff old sheets. The closet door was open just enough to show nothing inside. The curtains hung still against the window, but something was off. I shined my flashlight around, my pulse slowing just enough for my brain to catch up. The carpet was flattened, like someone had been standing there recently. The air felt wrong, thick, like the walls were holding in something they shouldn't. And then I noticed the bathroom door. Closed. From under the doorframe I saw it, a single bare foot sticking out from underneath, pale, motionless. Someone was behind that door. My breath hitched. I should have left right then and there. I should have turned around, found a way to hotwire my car, anything. But what I actually did, instead, I reached out and slowly pushed the door open. The bathroom was empty. No person, no body, nothing. But the foot was still there. It took me a full second to realize what I was looking at. It wasn't real. A severed plastic mannequin foot lay on the tiled floor, perfectly positioned to look like it was attached to someone behind the door. Like a trap, like something meant to lure me in. A breath shuddered out of me. Someone was fucking with me. And then I heard a creak, a noise from behind me, from the closet. I turned, flashlight shaking in my grip. And for just a second, I saw something moving inside. A flash of thin, pale limbs. A figure retreating into the darkness. And then the door slammed shut. I was out of there before I even processed it. I ran back to the office, locking the door behind me. My heart was hammering so hard it felt like I might break a rib. Someone was here. Someone had been watching me. I grabbed the landline phone. Dead. Of course, no power. I pulled out my cell. No signal. I needed to get out. I needed to find my damn keys. And that's when I noticed something in the guest book. A new name had been written down. Room 106. Occupied. And under it, a second entry. Room 108. Occupied. My stomach twisted. I turned to the hallway. The door to room 108 was now open. The sound of the doors unlocking echoed down the hallway, slow and deliberate. There was a man in the doorway. He didn't move. His sunken eyes just stayed locked on me, his rotted motel uniform hanging off his frail frame like it didn't quite fit anymore. But I stopped looking at him. I was looking past him, at the open doors, at the people stepping out of the rooms, if you could still call them people. They were thin, unnaturally so, like they had starved for years, but never quite died. Their skin was sallow, stretched too tight over their sharp bones. Some were still wearing old guest clothing, stained and tattered, while others were wrapped in nothing but motel sheets. And their eyes, dark, hollow, watching. Not one of them spoke, not one of them blinked, but they were all looking at me, and they were all stepping forward. I bolted for the office door, slamming into it so hard my shoulder screamed in pain. I fumbled at the handle, still locked. Fuck! I turned back. The hallway was full of them now. A dozen, maybe more. Silent, slow, coming closer. I grabbed the heavy guest book of the counter and hurled it at the man in the doorway. It hit him square in the chest with a dull thump, and he barely reacted. He just tilted his head again, still smiling. "The guests must be attended to," he said. His voice was thin, brittle, like he hadn't used it in years. I didn't stay to hear more. I turned and sprinted toward the back of the office. I slammed into the back office door, shoving it open. Inside, a desk covered in dust, stacks of old motel logs, an old radio crackling static, and a second door leading outside. I ran to it, grabbing at the handle. Locked. A thick rusted deadbolt jammed into place. No key in sight. I spun, frantically searching the desk. No keys, no phone, nothing useful. And then I heard it. A new sound. Rustling, coming from inside the room with me. I turned slowly. At the far end of the office, a closet door was open. Not all the way, just an inch. Like someone was hiding inside. And that's when I saw them. Fingers. Long, thin, curling around the edge of the door. They twitched, and then, slowly, they began pulling the door open. I backed up fast, my body hitting the desk. Nowhere left to go. The door creaked open further, and someone stepped out. A woman, or what used to be one. She was skeletal, her skin gray and stretched tight over sharp bones. Her hair hung in brittle clumps, and she was wearing a guest robe. But the worst part, she was still holding a motel key, like she'd been waiting for service. Her mouth opened too wide, like something unhinged. And then she whispered, "Check me out." I don't remember screaming. I just remember running. Out of the office, through the hallway, past the silent watching guests. The motel was full of them now, standing in doorways, sitting on dusty couches, just waiting. Not ghosts, not monsters, just people who never left. Their bodies had rotted, adapted, and survived in these walls for decades, waiting for service, waiting for someone to take over. I made it to the lobby, and then I saw it. The guest book, wide open, with one last entry waiting for me. My name, and a space for my checkout date, still blank, waiting. I don't know what happened next. Maybe I passed out. Maybe I ran. Maybe I tried to fight. But I woke up somewhere else. Not in the desert. Not in my car. Not at home. Behind the front desk. The Mayfield Inn was clean now. Polished floors, fresh paint, the smell of hot coffee and breakfast in the air. A key was in my pocket. The guest book was open in front of me. And the first name inside was mine. Outside, an engine rumbled. A car was pulling in. A new guest. And as the door creaked open, I felt it. A smile stretching across my face. "Welcome to the motel,"